What if everything you've been taught about achieving success is backwards? What if the harder you push and struggle, the further you get from what you want? What if there's a completely different set of rules for winning at life that nobody ever told you about? In 1925, Florence Scovel Shinn wrote a book that revealed these hidden rules, principles that have helped millions manifest their dreams without force or struggle. In the next 20 minutes, you're about to discover why life is a game, what the real rules are, and exactly how to play it to win. This could change everything. Let's begin. The Game of Life and How to Play It by Florence Scovel Shinn is not your typical self-help book. Written nearly a century ago, it remains one of the most powerful guides to manifesting success, abundance, and happiness ever created. Shinn was an artist, metaphysical teacher, and spiritual counselor who spent decades helping people transform their lives through understanding spiritual laws that govern reality. This book presents a radical idea that life operates according to specific spiritual principles, just as physics operates according to physical laws. When you understand these principles and align with them, you stop struggling and start flowing toward your desires. When you violate them, you create resistance and suffering no matter how hard you work. Shinn teaches that success isn't about force or willpower. It's about understanding the game and playing by the actual rules, not the ones you were taught. The book is filled with real examples from Shinn's counseling practice, showing how ordinary people transformed impossible situations through shifting their consciousness. These aren't theories, they're tested principles that worked in 1925 and still work today because human consciousness hasn't changed. What has changed is that most people have forgotten these fundamental truths about how reality actually works. In this summary, we'll explore the core principles Shinn teaches: the power of words, the law of attraction, the role of faith, the importance of non-resistance, forgiveness, intuition, and claiming your divine supply. Each principle builds on the others to create a complete system for winning the game of life. These ideas may challenge everything you believe about success, but thousands of people have used them to create miraculous transformations. Let's discover why life is a game and how you're meant to play it. The game. Shinn opens with the foundational concept that life is a game, and most people are losing because they don't know the rules. They're playing by the wrong set of instructions, struggling and suffering unnecessarily, wondering why success eludes them despite enormous effort. The game of life is not about competition, survival, or proving yourself worthy. Those are false rules that create struggle. The real game is about aligning your consciousness with spiritual law so that your desires manifest naturally and easily. When you play by the correct rules, life stops being a battle and becomes a dance. You stop forcing and start allowing. You stop struggling and start flowing. Shinn explains that most people approach life from the personality level, the conscious, logical mind that relies on reason, planning, and willpower. But the personality is extremely limited. It can only see what's directly in front of it. It doesn't know the invisible pathways through which your good can reach you. It tries to force specific outcomes through limited human means, which creates exhaustion and disappointment. The winning approach is to operate from the spiritual level, your higher consciousness that's connected to infinite intelligence. This part of you knows the perfect path, the perfect timing, the perfect method for everything you desire to manifest. But it can only guide you when you get your limited personality out of the way. This is the essence of the game, learning to trust spiritual guidance over human reasoning. Shinn teaches that the game has three players: your conscious mind, your subconscious mind, and the divine intelligence that governs all creation. Your conscious mind sets the intention. Your subconscious mind, which is impressionable and accepts whatever you tell it, creates the conditions that match those intentions. And divine intelligence orchestrates the circumstances, synchronicities, and invisible connections that bring your intentions into physical reality. When all three players are aligned, manifestation is automatic and often miraculous. But here's where most people lose the game. They set positive, conscious intentions while holding negative, subconscious beliefs. They say they want wealth while believing deep down that money is hard to get or that they're not worthy of abundance. They desire love while harboring resentment and fear. They want success while carrying shame about their past. The subconscious always wins this conflict because it's far more powerful than conscious intention. Your outer world will always match your inner subconscious beliefs, not your conscious wishes. This is why affirmations alone often fail. Simply repeating positive statements while your subconscious holds opposite beliefs creates no change. The real work is reprogramming the subconscious, replacing limiting beliefs with empowering ones, and clearing the emotional blocks that prevent your good from reaching you. This is how you win the game, by getting all parts of yourself aligned and working together instead of in opposition. Shinn emphasizes that winning the game doesn't mean getting everything you want through manipulation or force. It means surrendering your limited human plans and allowing divine intelligence to bring you something far better than you could have imagined. Often, what you think you want is based on fear, ego, or limited understanding. What you truly need, what will bring lasting fulfillment, comes when you trust the process and follow spiritual guidance rather than forcing your own agenda. The game of life rewards faith over fear, trust over control, giving over hoarding, love over resentment, and surrender over struggle. These are the actual rules. Learn them, apply them, and watch your entire life transform. The power of the word. One of Shinn's most powerful teachings is about the creative power of your words. She declares that words are not just sounds. They're containers of energy that shape your reality. Every word you speak is a seed you plant in consciousness that must eventually manifest in your experience. This principle appears throughout spiritual and religious traditions. Biblical scripture states that in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was creative. Everything in existence began as thought given form through the spoken word. You possess this same creative power. Your words are constantly creating your future reality, whether you realize it or not. Most people use their words carelessly and destructively. They complain about lack, declare their limitations, describe their fears, and affirm their problems. Every time you say something like, "I can't afford that," "I always get sick in winter," "Nothing ever works out for me," or "I'll never find love," you're giving power to those conditions and ensuring they continue. Your subconscious mind hears every word and takes it as an instruction to create that reality. Shinn teaches that you must become vigilant about your words, speaking only what you want to experience, never what you fear or what currently appears to be true. This doesn't mean denying problems. It means refusing to give them power through constant repetition. When you face a challenge, acknowledge it briefly if necessary, then immediately pivot to declaring the solution and the desired outcome. She provides numerous examples of how changing speech patterns transformed situations. A woman constantly complaining about her health began affirming perfect health and vitality instead. Within weeks, chronic conditions that had plagued her for years disappeared. A man declaring poverty and struggle switched to affirming abundant supply, and unexpected money began flowing to him from sources he never anticipated. These weren't coincidences, they were demonstrations of spiritual law. Change your words, and you must change your reality, because words are creative force. Shinn introduces the concept of affirmations as deliberate creative statements designed to impress new patterns on the subconscious mind. An affirmation isn't wishful thinking or positive distraction. It's a powerful declaration of spiritual truth that overrides false appearances and limited beliefs. When spoken with faith and feeling, affirmations reprogram consciousness and set new creative patterns in motion. Effective affirmations have specific qualities. They're stated in present tense as if already true, because the subconscious doesn't understand future tense. It only knows now. They're positive rather than negative, affirming what you want rather than what you're avoiding. They're specific enough to create clear mental images, but flexible enough to allow divine intelligence to manifest them in the perfect way and timing. And they're repeated consistently until the subconscious accepts them as truth. Examples of powerful affirmations from the book include statements like, "Infinite Spirit, open the way for my great abundance now. I am an irresistible magnet for all that belongs to me by divine right." Or, "I give thanks that the divine plan of my life now takes shape in definite, concrete experiences leading to my heart's desire." These statements bypass logical limitations and speak directly to the creative power within consciousness. But Shinn warns that affirmations must be backed by faith, not desperation. Speaking positive words while feeling doubt and fear is like planting seeds in poisoned soil. Nothing grows. You must feel the truth of what you're declaring, even if outer circumstances contradict it. This is where faith comes in, the ability to know something is true in the spiritual realm before it manifests in the physical realm. The power of the word extends beyond formal affirmations to every casual statement you make throughout the day. Become conscious of how you speak about yourself, your life, your body, your finances, your relationships, and your future. Are you declaring what you want or what you fear? Are you affirming possibility or limitation? Are your words creating or destroying? This awareness alone will begin shifting your reality. Shinn teaches that you're always under the law of your own words. Whatever you decree with faith and conviction must manifest, because spiritual law is precise and impersonal. It responds to everyone equally based on the quality of consciousness and speech. This is both empowering and sobering. Empowering because you have tremendous creative authority. Sobering because you must take responsibility for what you've been creating through careless speech. The law of attraction. Long before the law of attraction became a modern phenomenon, Florence Scovel Shinn was teaching this principle with clarity and precision. She explains that consciousness is magnetic. You don't attract what you want. You attract what you are. Your dominant thoughts, beliefs, and feelings create a vibrational frequency that draws matching experiences into your life automatically. This law operates with mathematical precision. Like attracts like. Whatever frequency you're broadcasting through your consciousness, the universe must deliver experiences that match that frequency. If you're broadcasting lack, fear, and limitation, you'll receive more circumstances that confirm those feelings. If you're broadcasting abundance, love, and possibility, you'll receive experiences that match those frequencies. Understanding this law demolishes the victim mentality. You're never a victim of circumstances. You're always the creator of them, whether consciously or unconsciously. Every person, situation, and condition in your life is there because some part of your consciousness called it forth. This isn't about blame or guilt. It's about recognizing your creative power so you can use it deliberately instead of accidentally. Shinn provides striking examples of this law in action. A woman who constantly feared theft had her home robbed multiple times despite precautions. Her fear was a magnet, drawing the very thing she dreaded. When she learned to release the fear and affirm divine protection instead, the thefts stopped completely. A man who resented wealthy people remained poor despite working hard. His resentment created a repelling force that pushed money away. When he transformed his resentment into admiration and appreciation for wealth, money began flowing to him naturally. The law of attraction responds not to your words, but to your actual consciousness, what you truly believe and feel at the deepest level. This is why you can't fake it. Repeating affirmations about wealth while feeling poor inside creates no change, because your true vibration is lack. The affirmations might help shift your consciousness over time, but the instant transformation comes when your inner feeling state genuinely matches what you're declaring. Shinn teaches that your imagination is a preview of coming attractions. Whatever you consistently visualize with emotion tends to manifest because you're impressing those images on your subconscious mind, which then creates matching outer circumstances. This is why worry is so dangerous. It's negative visualization, imagining worst-case scenarios with emotion, which gives them power to manifest. If you're going to use your imagination anyway, use it deliberately to picture desired outcomes rather than feared ones. The law of attraction explains why rich people tend to get richer while poor people struggle. It's not about fairness or justice. It's about consciousness. Wealthy people have a prosperity consciousness that magnetizes more wealth naturally and effortlessly. Poorer people have a lack consciousness that repels money despite their desperate need for it. The solution isn't to resent the wealthy. It's to cultivate prosperity consciousness regardless of current circumstances, knowing that the inner state will eventually create the outer manifestation. This law also governs relationships. You attract people who match your self-concept and beliefs about relationships. If you believe you're unworthy of love, you'll attract partners who treat you as unworthy. If you carry resentment toward the opposite gender, you'll attract relationships that confirm that resentment. If you believe in your value and expect to be treated well, you'll magnetically draw people who recognize and honor your worth. Every relationship is a mirror showing you your own consciousness. Shinn emphasizes that you can't attract at one level while vibrating at another. You can't feel poor and attract wealth. You can't feel unlovable and attract genuine love. You can't feel powerless and attract empowered circumstances. You must first become the thing you wish to attract through transforming your consciousness, and then the outer manifestation follows automatically. The practical application is to monitor your dominant emotional states throughout the day. What frequency are you broadcasting? Is it faith or fear, gratitude or resentment, abundance or lack, love or criticism? Whatever you're feeling most of the time is what you're attracting. If you don't like what you're experiencing, check your frequency and adjust it. This is the master key to using the law of attraction deliberately. Faith and the spoken word. Faith is the bridge between the invisible spiritual realm and visible physical manifestation. Shinn teaches that faith is not blind belief or wishful hoping. It's the absolute knowing that what you've claimed in consciousness must appear in form, because spiritual law is exact and unwavering. Biblical teaching states that faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. Shinn explains this means faith is the actual spiritual substance that forms into physical manifestation. When you have true faith, you're not waiting and hoping. You're already in possession of your desire and consciousness, knowing it must materialize in perfect timing. This level of faith requires releasing all doubt, worry, and anxiety about how or when something will manifest. Doubt cancels faith. Fear cancels faith. Attachment to specific methods cancels faith. True faith is relaxed, peaceful, and expectant, like a child who knows absolutely that Christmas morning will bring gifts. There's no anxiety, no forcing, no desperate hoping, just calm certainty. Shinn distinguishes between faith and willpower. Willpower tries to force outcomes through human effort and determination. Faith surrenders the how and when to divine intelligence, while maintaining absolute certainty of the end result. Willpower exhausts you. Faith energizes you because you're no longer carrying the burden of making things happen. You've given that responsibility to the infinite power that already knows the perfect path. She provides powerful examples of faith in action. A woman needed $5,000 urgently with no apparent source. Rather than panicking, she simply declared, "Infinite Spirit, manifest $5,000 for me now in perfect ways," and released it completely. Within a week, an old debt she'd written off years ago was unexpectedly repaid in full, exactly $5,000. Her faith created the opening for divine intelligence to orchestrate the perfect solution. Faith must be combined with the spoken word to be most effective. Words give your faith direction and form. Faith without words remains general and unfocused. Words without faith are empty repetition. Together, they create unstoppable creative force. This is why Jesus taught that if you have faith and speak to a mountain, telling it to move, it must move. The mountain represents any obstacle or challenge. Faith plus the spoken word removes all obstacles. Shinn teaches that faith begins as a decision, not a feeling. You decide to have faith regardless of appearances. You choose to trust spiritual law even when circumstances look impossible. As you hold this decision and speak your word with authority, the feeling of faith grows. Eventually, you reach a state where faith becomes unshakable, knowing you don't just believe it will happen. You know it already has happened in the spiritual realm and must appear in physical form. One of the most powerful aspects of faith is its ability to dissolve fear. Fear and faith cannot coexist. They're opposite frequencies. When genuine faith arises, fear disappears automatically. This is why Shinn repeatedly emphasizes building unshakable faith. It's not just about manifesting desires, it's about freedom from the anxiety, worry, and stress that plague most people's lives. The development of faith requires practice. Start with small demonstrations. Claim something relatively minor with faith and spoken word, then watch it manifest. This builds confidence in the principle. As you experience more demonstrations, your faith strengthens, and you can claim greater things with the same certainty. Faith is like a muscle. It grows stronger with use. Shinn warns against testing faith by constantly checking for results or demanding signs. This demonstrates doubt, not faith. True faith works in silence, holding the vision inwardly while attending to daily life peacefully. You plant a seed and trust it's growing underground before any sprout appears. Similarly, after you've claimed something with faith and spoken word, you trust the invisible spiritual process is working even before physical evidence appears. The highest level of faith is having faith in faith itself, trusting that the principle works regardless of your personal worthiness or past failures. You don't need to be perfect or deserve anything. Spiritual law is impersonal and responds to everyone equally based on consciousness. This removes guilt and self-judgment, allowing pure faith to operate. Non-resistance and letting go. Shinn introduces one of the most challenging yet transformative principles, non-resistance. She teaches that what you resist persists, and what you peacefully accept transforms or dissolves. Resistance to any person, situation, or condition keeps you bound to it energetically, while non-resistance sets you free. Most people spend tremendous energy resisting what is, fighting against unwanted circumstances, arguing with reality, wishing things were different. This resistance doesn't change anything. It only creates suffering and locks the unwanted condition in place. Resistance is like grabbing a hot coal, intending to throw it at someone else. You're the one who gets burned. Non-resistance doesn't mean passive acceptance or approval of negative situations. It means you stop fighting against what is, and instead turn your energy toward creating what you want. You acknowledge the present circumstance without emotional charge, then immediately focus on the desired outcome. This removes the magnetic pull that resistance creates and allows new possibilities to emerge. Shinn shares a powerful example of a woman in a difficult marriage who constantly resisted her husband's behavior, creating daily battles and misery. When she learned non-resistance, she stopped fighting and simply blessed him silently, releasing all judgment and resentment. Within a short time, either his behavior transformed completely, becoming kind and loving, or she was led to a peaceful separation. The outcome wasn't important. What mattered was her freedom from the emotional prison resistance had created. The principle of non-resistance extends to money, health, relationships, every area of life. If you resist your current financial situation, you stay stuck in it. If you accept where you are without judgment, while focusing on desired abundance, money begins flowing more easily. If you resist illness and hate your body, healing is blocked. If you peacefully accept your body while affirming perfect health, healing happens naturally. Closely related to non-resistance is the practice of letting go. Shinn teaches that attachment and desperate clinging push away what you desire, while releasing and trusting draws it to you. This seems paradoxical. How can letting go of something bring it to you? But it works because desperation and attachment create resistance, while peaceful release creates flow. Letting go doesn't mean giving up or no longer caring. It means releasing your grip on how and when something manifests, trusting divine intelligence to handle the details while you maintain faith in the outcome. It's the difference between clutching a bird so tightly it suffocates versus holding your hand open and allowing it to rest there freely. One kills, the other attracts. Many people sabotage their manifestations through excessive concern and constant monitoring. They claim something with faith, then immediately undermine it by worrying whether it will come, when it will come, and how it will come. This worry cancels the original faith. Shinn teaches that after you've claimed something and spoken your word, your job is to let go completely and trust. The seed has been planted. Now, let it grow without digging it up daily to check progress. The ultimate letting go is surrendering your personal will to divine will. Your limited personality thinks it knows what you need and how life should unfold. But divine intelligence has a far greater plan, often bringing you something infinitely better than what you thought you wanted. When you surrender to this higher plan, saying, "Thy will be done," you open yourself to miracles that your limited vision could never have imagined. Shinn emphasizes that surrender isn't defeat. It's the ultimate power move. You're stepping aside and letting infinite power work on your behalf instead of trying to force outcomes through limited human effort. This is how miracles happen, when you get out of the way and let divine intelligence take over. The practice of non-resistance and letting go creates incredible peace. Most suffering comes from fighting reality and clutching desperately to desired outcomes. When you release this struggle and flow with life, trusting the process, anxiety dissolves. You discover that you're being carried by a benevolent current toward your highest good, and all the fighting was unnecessary. Forgiveness and love. Shinn teaches that forgiveness is not optional for those who want to win the game of life. It's absolutely essential. Resentment, bitterness, and unforgiveness are spiritual poisons that block your good from reaching you. They create energetic chains binding you to the very people and situations you want to be free from. Forgiveness is the key that unlocks these chains. Many people misunderstand forgiveness, thinking it means condoning wrong behavior or letting people off the hook. Shinn clarifies that forgiveness has nothing to do with the other person. It's for your own freedom. When you forgive, you're not saying what happened was okay. You're saying, "I refuse to carry this burden anymore. I release this person and situation completely so I can move forward free." Unforgiveness is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. You're the one who suffers while harboring resentment. It affects your health, your relationships, your finances, your peace of mind, every area of life. The person you resent may be completely unaware of your feelings, living their life freely while you're imprisoned by bitterness. This is why forgiveness is a gift you give yourself, not them. Shinn provides specific affirmations for forgiveness, such as, "I fully and freely forgive." "I loose and let go." "I let go of the whole thing joyously." She teaches that you must forgive everyone and everything, holding no grudges, no resentments, no justified anger. Every person who harmed you was operating from their own limited consciousness and pain. When you understand this, compassion replaces resentment. The most difficult forgiveness is often self-forgiveness. Many people carry crushing guilt and shame about past mistakes, sabotaging their current manifestations because deep down they believe they don't deserve good things. Shinn emphasizes that the past is gone. It has no power except what you give it through continued focus and self-condemnation. You must forgive yourself completely, releasing all guilt, and move forward knowing that you're a divine being deserving of all good. Closely linked to forgiveness is the power of love. Shinn teaches that love is the most powerful force in the universe. It dissolves all obstacles, heals all wounds, and transforms all situations. Not sentimental emotion, but spiritual love, the recognition that everyone and everything is part of divine creation, worthy of blessing and goodwill. When you love, you vibrate at the highest frequency possible, attracting miraculous experiences and dissolving problems automatically. Love opens doors that no amount of struggle can open. Love creates opportunities that logic says are impossible. Love heals relationships that seem beyond repair. Love manifests supply when there appears to be no source. This is because love is the creative force itself. God is love. And when you're in a state of love, you're aligned with the creative power of the universe. Shinn teaches practical love through blessing. Instead of cursing situations you don't like or people who wrong you, you deliberately bless them. Blessing doesn't mean approval. It means consciously sending goodwill and releasing all negative attachment. When you bless an enemy, you neutralize their power to harm you. When you bless a difficult situation, you create space for it to transform or dissolve. She shares remarkable examples of love and blessing creating miracles. A woman being cheated in business began blessing the person who was deceiving her instead of seeking revenge. Within a short time, the truth came to light naturally. The wrong was corrected, and the perpetrator experienced a change of heart. A man who hated his boss began silently blessing him daily. Within weeks, either the boss transformed into a pleasant person, or the man was led to a far better job. Love cleared the path either way. The practice of loving and blessing extends to everything: your body, your finances, your possessions, your work. Whatever you love and bless increases and improves. Whatever you resent and curse diminishes and creates problems. This is spiritual law. You can test it immediately in your own life by shifting from criticism to blessing in any area and watching what happens. Ultimately, Shinn teaches that love and forgiveness create the inner freedom necessary for manifestation to work. When you're bound by resentment, there's no space for your good to enter. When you're free through forgiveness and radiating love, your good rushes toward you like water flowing downhill. This is why the spiritual path is ultimately about transforming consciousness from fear to love, from judgment to blessing, from resentment to forgiveness. Intuition and divine guidance. Shinn emphasizes that every person has access to divine guidance through intuition, but most people have been trained to ignore it in favor of logical reasoning. Intuition is not random hunches or wishful thinking. It's direct communication from your higher self and divine intelligence, showing you the perfect path forward. Logic is limited by past experience and known information. It can only work with what has already happened and what you already know. But intuition taps into infinite intelligence that sees all possibilities, all timelines, all invisible connections. It knows the perfect path through any situation, even when logic says there's no way. Following intuition leads to miracles. Following logic alone leads to limitation. The challenge is that intuition often contradicts logic and common sense. It might tell you to turn left when logic says right. It might guide you toward an action that seems irrational or risky. It might nudge you away from something that looks perfect on paper. This is where faith comes in. You must learn to trust intuitive guidance even when it doesn't make rational sense. Shinn teaches that intuition speaks through several channels. Sudden, strong impulses, repeated ideas that won't go away, synchronicities that grab your attention, feelings of rightness or wrongness about decisions, and literal inner voice or knowing. The key is that intuitive guidance feels certain and peaceful, even if unexpected, while ego guidance feels anxious or attached to specific outcomes. She shares powerful stories of intuition in action. A woman felt a strong impulse to go to a specific store at an unusual time. It made no logical sense, but she trusted the guidance. At that store, at that exact moment, she ran into someone who offered her the perfect job she'd been seeking. Had she ignored the impulse, that opportunity would have been missed. A man was about to sign a contract that looked financially excellent, but something felt wrong. He honored the feeling and withdrew. Later, he discovered the entire deal was fraudulent and would have destroyed him financially. Developing intuition requires quieting the mental chatter through meditation, prayer, or simply sitting in silence. The still small voice of intuition can't be heard over the noise of constant thinking, worry, and mental planning. You must create space for it to emerge. This is why many people receive strongest guidance during relaxed states, showering, walking in nature just before sleep. The analytical mind quiets and intuition surfaces. Shinn advises testing intuitive guidance on small decisions first. When you feel an impulse, act on it and notice the results. As you experience intuition leading you correctly, your confidence in following it grows. Eventually, you develop such trust in your inner guidance that you follow it immediately without hesitation, even when it contradicts all logic and advice. The relationship between intellect and intuition should be complementary, not contradictory. Use your intellect to gather information and analyze options. Then quiet the mind and listen for intuitive guidance about which path to take. The intellect is a useful servant, but a terrible master. Let intuition guide major decisions, using intellect to work out practical details. Shinn warns against confusing intuition with fear-based impulses. Fear screams urgently, demanding immediate action to avoid imagined disaster. Intuition speaks calmly and certain, often with unexpected peace, even when suggesting challenging action. Fear contracts and limits. Intuition expands and liberates. Learning to distinguish between them is crucial for following true guidance. She also teaches that intuition knows the divine timing for everything. Logic wants things immediately. Intuition might guide you to wait, seemingly doing nothing, because it knows that acting now would close the door to something better coming later. Or intuition might urge immediate action on something logic says to postpone. Trust the guidance about timing as much as direction. The highest form of intuition is direct connection to divine intelligence through what Shinn calls the Christ within, the divine spark in every person that knows all truth and can guide you perfectly through any situation. When you regularly turn inward and ask for guidance, then listen in silence and trust what you receive, you tap into infinite wisdom. This creates a life of ease and flow as you're led step by step toward your highest good. Divine supply and prosperity. Shinn's teaching on prosperity is revolutionary. She declares that supply is spiritual, not material. It originates in consciousness, not in circumstances. Your supply doesn't come from your job, your investments, or any visible source. These are merely channels through which your inner consciousness of abundance manifests. Change your consciousness, and the channels change automatically. This means you're never dependent on any person, job, or circumstance for your supply. God is your source, and God is infinite. Even if every visible channel closed tomorrow, new channels would open immediately when you maintain prosperity consciousness. This is incredibly liberating. You're free from fear about economy, job loss, or any material circumstance because you understand supply is spiritual. The law of supply states that you cannot lack if you maintain abundance consciousness, and you cannot prosper permanently if you maintain lack consciousness. It's mathematically impossible. Your outer world must match your inner world. This is why poor people win lotteries and often end up poor again. The money came, but the consciousness didn't change. So, the money disappeared. It's why naturally prosperous people lose fortunes and rebuild them quickly. They have prosperity consciousness that magnetizes wealth regardless of temporary circumstances. Shinn teaches specific principles for demonstrating prosperity. First, you must develop a consciousness of fearless abundance. This means training yourself to think, speak, and feel abundance even when circumstances suggest lack. You praise wealth instead of criticizing it. You bless rich people instead of resenting them. You give generously, even from limited resources. You act as though you're already prosperous, and the outer reality must conform. The practice of tithing, giving a tenth of income to spiritual sources, is emphasized as a powerful prosperity tool. This isn't about buying favor from God. It's about demonstrating faith in divine supply. When you give freely, you prove to your subconscious mind that you trust in infinite abundance. This creates an opening for even greater supply to flow to you. The universe abhors a vacuum. What you give away returns multiplied. Shinn provides remarkable examples of divine supply. A woman with no money needed to travel across country. She declared, "Infinite Spirit, provide perfect transportation for me now." And someone immediately offered her a free ride. A man facing eviction with no means to pay rent simply affirmed, "I have wonderful faith in the God of my instant, abundant supply." And an unexpected check arrived the next day from a source he'd forgotten about. These weren't luck. They were demonstrations of spiritual law operating through consciousness. The key to manifesting supply is eliminating the desperation and attachment that comes from fear. When you need money desperately, you're vibrating lack, which repels money. When you trust divine supply peacefully, you're vibrating abundance, which attracts money. This is why Shinn emphasizes faith and release. Claim your supply, then let go completely and trust. She teaches powerful money affirmations. My supply comes from God and now appears in manifest form. I see it on every hand. Unexpected doors fly open, unexpected channels are free, and endless avalanches of abundance are poured out upon me, under grace in perfect ways. These statements, spoken with faith, impress abundant consciousness on the subconscious mind, which then creates matching conditions. Prosperity consciousness also requires clearing all guilt and unworthiness around wealth. Many people subconsciously believe that money is evil, rich people are corrupt, or they don't deserve abundance. These beliefs sabotage every attempt to prosper. You must recognize that money is simply energy, neutral in itself. It becomes positive or negative based on how it's used. You must also know that you deserve abundant supply because you're a divine being, a child of the infinite, and it's your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. Shinn distinguishes between divine supply and limited human hustle. Human effort alone produces limited results, proportional to hours worked. Divine supply brings avalanches of abundance from unexpected sources through synchronicity, perfect timing, and miraculous circumstances. Your job isn't to work harder, it's to align your consciousness with divine abundance and let the infinite figure out how to deliver it. She also addresses the difference between greed and legitimate prosperity. Greed comes from fear and lack consciousness, trying to hoard because you're afraid there's not enough. True prosperity comes from abundance consciousness, giving freely because you trust infinite supply. Greed contracts and eventually destroys. Prosperity expands and creates more for everyone. The ultimate prosperity truth is that you already have everything you need in the spiritual realm. Your job is simply to claim it and accept it into physical manifestation through faith, spoken word, and right consciousness. The universe is infinitely abundant. There's no shortage of money, resources, or good. The only shortage is in consciousness. Expand your consciousness and watch your supply expand automatically. Living the principles. Shinn concludes by emphasizing that these principles must be lived daily, not just studied intellectually. Knowledge without application creates no change. You must practice these teachings consistently until they become your automatic way of being. The practice begins each morning. Start your day by declaring your word about what you want to experience. Speak affirmations that align with your desires. Set your consciousness deliberately before circumstances can influence it. This morning practice sets the tone for your entire day and impresses your intentions on the subconscious mind while it's most receptive. Throughout the day, monitor your thoughts, words, and feelings constantly. When you catch yourself thinking limitation, immediately pivot to abundance. When you notice fear arising, replace it with faith. When criticism comes up, shift to blessing. This takes vigilance at first, but it becomes automatic with practice. You're literally reprogramming your consciousness thought by thought, word by word. Practice non-resistance in daily situations. When something doesn't go as planned, instead of fighting and resisting, accept peacefully and look for the good. Traffic jam. Use it for contemplation instead of frustration. Rude person, bless them silently and move on rather than carrying resentment. Unexpected expense? Trust that divine supply is already on its way rather than panicking. Every situation becomes an opportunity to practice spiritual principles. Make forgiveness a daily practice. At the end of each day, review any moments where you felt hurt, angry or resentful, and deliberately forgive everyone involved, including yourself. Don't go to bed carrying any unforgiveness. Release it all before sleep. This keeps your consciousness clear and prevents accumulation of emotional baggage that blocks your good. Trust your intuition in both major and minor decisions. When choosing a route to drive, picking items at the store, deciding whether to make a phone call, tune in to your inner guidance and follow what you sense. These small acts of trust strengthen your connection to intuition so you can rely on it for bigger guidance when needed. Give generously, not just money, but also time, appreciation, kindness, and service. Generous giving demonstrates abundance consciousness and creates a flow of good returning to you. Stinginess demonstrates lack consciousness and cuts off your supply. The universe mirrors what you give out. Give freely and receive freely. Study and contemplate spiritual truth regularly through reading, meditation, or quiet reflection. Your consciousness needs constant nourishment with higher truth to counteract the barrage of limitation and negativity from the world. Make spiritual study as essential as eating. It feeds your consciousness what it needs to create the life you desire. Shinn emphasizes that demonstrations of these principles usually start small. You might manifest a parking space before you manifest a house. You might attract $10 before you attract 10,000. Celebrate every demonstration, no matter how small, because it proves the principle works. Each success builds faith for bigger demonstrations. She also warns about the testing period that often comes when you start applying these principles. Things might get worse before they get better as old patterns surface to be cleared. Don't be discouraged. This is simply the old consciousness being cleaned out to make room for the new. Hold steady to your truth. Keep affirming and claiming your good. And the demonstration must come. The ultimate practice is living from faith and trust rather than fear and control. This means releasing the desperate need to figure everything out, force solutions, or manipulate circumstances. Instead, you set your intention, speak your word, then relax in trust that divine intelligence is handling all details perfectly. You take inspired action when intuition guides, but you're not carrying the burden of making things happen through sheer force. Shinn's final encouragement is to remember that these are laws, not suggestions. Spiritual law is as reliable as physical law. Gravity works every time for everyone. It doesn't play favorites or have bad days. Similarly, the law of attraction, the creative power of words, the principle of non-resistance. These work with absolute consistency when properly applied. Your job is to learn them, trust them, and apply them. The results are guaranteed. The game of life and how to play it reveals the hidden rules that govern success, abundance, and happiness. Florence Scovel Shinn spent decades helping people transform impossible situations through understanding and applying spiritual law. These aren't theories or religious dogma. They're practical principles that work for anyone regardless of belief system. Life is a game, and you've been playing by the wrong rules. You've been taught that success comes through struggle, force, and willpower, fighting your way to what you want through sheer determination. But the actual rules are the opposite. Success comes through alignment, faith, and surrender, getting yourself into harmony with spiritual law and allowing your good to flow to you naturally. The real rules are clear. Your words create your reality. So speak only what you want to experience. You attract what you are, not what you want. So become the consciousness that matches your desires. Faith is the bridge between invisible spiritual truth and visible physical manifestation. So cultivate unshakable faith. What you resist persists. So practice non-resistance and let go. Unforgiveness blocks your good, so forgive everyone and everything, including yourself. Intuition is direct divine guidance, so trust it over logic. Supply is spiritual and infinite, so maintain prosperity consciousness regardless of appearances. These principles worked in 1925. They work today, and they'll work 100 years from now because they're based on how consciousness and reality actually operate. Thousands of people have used them to manifest health, wealth, love, and success, often creating miracles that seemed completely impossible from the limited human perspective. But knowledge alone changes nothing. You must apply these principles daily, consistently, persistently. Start with small demonstrations to build faith. Practice monitoring your thoughts and words. Choose faith over fear in every situation. Release resistance and attachment. Forgive freely. Trust your intuition. Give generously. Affirm abundance. Every day, you're either aligning with spiritual law or violating it through old patterns. Make the conscious choice to align. The game of life isn't about getting everything you think you want through manipulation. It's about surrendering to divine intelligence and allowing it to bring you something far better than your limited vision could imagine. It's about transforming your consciousness from fear to faith, from lack to abundance, from resentment to love. When this inner transformation happens, your outer world must transform to match it. This is the law. You're now equipped with the rules. You understand how the game actually works. The only question remaining is whether you'll play by these true rules or continue playing by the false ones that keep most people struggling. The choice is yours, and that choice will determine everything about your experience of life. Choose wisely. Start today. The game is waiting for you to play it correctly and win. Your move.